Yes, it's a big change. The 180. Your life won't be the same. The 180.
I'm gonna make some statements, and you will let me know if they are true or false. And these are statements about famous Oscars.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
number one, the Academy Award received the nickname Oscar based on the very first person to ever receive an Academy Award. Is this true or false?
Oh,
The, correct. It is false. So I guess, do you know the actual? I mean, you don't have to share. I have it written down. But you know
I do know the actual story, but go feel free. Go right ahead.
So apparently, Margaret Herrick, who was the Academy librarian at that time, upon seeing the trophy for the first time, she remarked that it resembled her uncle Oscar. Yeah, and there you go.
90 years later.
90 years later. See how that goes. Love it. The picture of Dorian Gray. But anyway, Oscar Wilde, his last words were reportedly, "This wallpaper or I do." That was my dramatic reaction.
No, there with the little.
Right. That was right.
Oh,
right.
that was a good. Okay,
That was a good thing.
With the
That was
bell.
good. Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
yeah.
got the foghorn. Okay.
Right.
So I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah, you're 3 for 3. Okay. Next up, former professional boxer Oscar De La Hoya was the highest paid athlete in boxing when he hung up his gloves in 2004.
I think that's right. Yeah, I was a De La Hoya fan, so true.
Yes, you are killing it, April. Yes, you know your Oscars, which
Who knew? I wasn't expecting this, so this is fun and also a little anxiety ridden because I'm very competitive even with myself. Let's keep going.
But you are 5 for 5 right now, or 4 for 4.
How many questions are there?
There are 5. So one more.
Oh, okay.
So you
okay.
almost.
I'm ready.
Yes, I watched a lot of Mortal Kombat, so you're about to get a flawless victory.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
So, Oscar Mayer's Wienermobile, first created in 1936, has toured the United States for over 70 years, and their drivers, called hot doggers, often hand out toy whistles called wiener whistles, which are shaped like a Wienermobile. True or false?
That's absolutely true. No, that's absolutely true. No question.
Wow. You just you know your Oscars for sure, April. Well, you did a sweep. You win all the awards. We can get you an Oscar and call it Omar.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. Yes,
absolutely. Give you Omar.
Right, and just like the real Oscars or the Academy Awards, since I'm a Black woman, it's really not going to make any bit of difference with respect to me getting future work. Hello, Halle Berry, Octavia Spencer, Viola Davis.
I love it. I love your truth telling, and I actually like the idea of let's remix it. Let's create the Omars. You know what I mean?
Why not? Well, I mean, let's be careful. We do have the NAACP Image Awards, so we don't need to necessarily recreate the wheel. But I hear you.
But we could start.
I don't think
calling...
that award has a name.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
We should call them the Omars. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, we can get together.
Mr. Epps.
Yes, exact. After Mr. Epps, underappreciated, undervalued Black actor.
Why not?
We could start this. April.
And then you know what? Omari Hardwick is going to get in there and be like, "Why couldn't it be an Omari?" But
right.
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
Between you and I, we got the social media clout.
There it is.
We could do this.
We could. Let me call up Derek Johnson real quick.
Yes, call him up. Call him up. Okay. So now I want to just ask you some questions. Who's a celebrity that you would be beside yourself if you got to meet?
Okay, so I'm going to recognize my privilege here and say that, since I created Oscar So White, I have had the amazing fortune to be in the room with many celebrities. And it's always a treat and a pleasure. And every now and again, I fangirl. I'm trying to think of somebody that I haven't met that I would really like to. You know what? My dance card has been really full. I don't know. Go ahead. What do you think?
Or if there's somebody that you met that that surprised you and you were like,
Yeah, I don't. Okay, this is going to be really silly. I have, and this is why I'm having trouble. I have met Viola Davis, who is like the creme de la creme all over the place.
Yes.
I have met Michael B. Jordan, who's just incredibly handsome and, a great person. I have met Barry Jenkins, who is one of the most prolific filmmakers, right?
Yes.
And so typically I can be cool about it. Let me change the question a little bit. The person that I met that really made me lose my ish, was, I can't remember his real name, Gordon from Sesame Street. And this is a very silly story. This is a very silly story. But let's say
I think I've met him in life too.
See, and it was, I want to say it was 2009. And I know that because it was the first Easter egg hunt of the Obama presidency. And I was a volunteer at the White House, showing people where to go or what have you. This is obviously way before Oscar's so white or whatever. And so I took the day off and just got to roam the South Lawn grounds. And, they have events all day long with the kids. And he was going to read, I think the book is called The Monster at the End of This Book. It's a book by Grover the Muppet on Sesame Street.
Yes, I love Grover.
And listen, I am 50 years old. And so I was born in 1970. Sesame Street started in 1969. So I literally grew up with Sesame Street. And Gordon was way up there. And plus he has the bald head and the salt and pepper beard, just like my dad. And so I met, he was doing his thing and he was about to sit down and read the book to the kids. And I was able to call him over just for a second, even though we weren't supposed to talk to talent, but I was going to shoot my shot.
Shoot your
and
shot,
so,
that's right.
I mean, how often do you have the opportunity? So, I just had, just a couple of minutes just to thank him for everything that he done because, obviously he had been on the show for decades. And I was nearly in tears, just because it was so amazing to meet him. And so even though that was before Oscar so white and before I had met a whole bunch of famous people, that's the one that sticks out to me now, 10, 15 years later.
I love that. Roscoe Orman is his name.
Yes, thank
Brother
you.
Roscoe, yes. And I've met him I think in the Black theater community. I've seen him. He's attended different things, but yeah, he's a really wonderful human being and just as endearing as Gordon, as he is as Gordon on Sesame Street. So I'm going to talk to you more about representation. Growing up, what representation did you see in mass media versus what you experienced in life?
Yeah, very, very little. Again, I'm 50 years old, so TV for
Which
me.
I can't believe. I gotta say, you look good. Black don't crack. Truly, yes, you hydrate.
I appreciate it. I drink a lot of water.
Hey,
that's what it is.
That's what it is.
So I grew up, in the 70s and the 80s, and so we're talking about Sanford and Son and Good Times, and so the first character that I can remember really resonating with was Kim Field's Tootie on Facts of Life. And, this was, I guess, the early 80s. And, it was the only, and I went to predominantly white schools just throughout my entire life. And so that was pretty much the only, this was obviously before the Cosby Show. So this was kind of like the only young Black girl that any white folks knew either. And so my nickname became Tootie because they're like, oh, you're Black, so clearly you're the one frame of reference that we have. So that's what we're going to go with. So that was interesting, and unfortunately, she was a great character, and Kim Fields is a great actress, and we saw her later on Living Single.
Yes.
but there were a couple of touch points. You know, the first time that Lando Calrissian came on screen in The Empire Strikes Back, you know, with that flowing cape and, you know, and that
Yes.
wavy hair, and, you know,
Yes.
and he was a badass, you know, and he was sort of a villain, but he was still cool. And, you know,
Uh-huh.
and even, you know, Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia got the vapors, you know,
Uh-huh.
so that was an important moment. You know, but the fact that I can name them so easily means that there clearly weren't enough. And so I'm very thankful that here we are, you know, 40, 50 years later, and there are a lot more opportunities for folks, but still not enough.
Yeah, totally. And just to add on to what you're talking about, for me personally, like I remember growing up in the 90s even, like I remember New York Undercover and like there being these little like grimy hard shows. And meanwhile, especially as a kid, I was grateful for Steve Urkel. I as I wear my plaid shirt today,
I
I
was
was
gonna
really
say
grateful
you're giving a little Steve tease right now. Absolutely, I can see that. You know, and my son
I,
actually was Steve Urkel one year for Halloween. So he had the broken glasses and the
yes.
suspenders and the high water pants and the saddle shoes, and it was kind of cute. I mean, you know, I think there are touch points for everybody, and Steve
Yeah,
was a good
yeah.
guy, a little nerdy, but I'm sure there are a lot of
Hmm.
folks who could relate.
And Jaleel White, I'm telling, if I could give him an Omar myself, I would give him all the awards. Because when I look back and I'm like, the different characters he played, yeah, anyway. So shout out to Jaleel White.
I love
I hope he
that
hears
there's a
this.
through line of the Omars. I love that you are being consistent with this. I
I am.
appreciate that.
When this airs, I want somebody to be like, let's make the Omar. Let's make the Omars. Dang.
I'm here for it. Why not?
Yes. Um, what's your relationship to social media? Obviously, you know, you started the hashtag Oscars So White. And I think more recently, especially with everything that's going on with the pandemic, we've been really, I think people as a community, we've been really intentional about discussing social media and the use of social media. So do you feel like you're able to find a good balance of using it as a tool and also separating yourself from it, or are you still looking for that balance or seeking that balance?
Oh, there's no balance to me. Hello, my name is April. I'm addicted to Twitter. You know, and I need the background to say, "Hi, April." Yeah. So let me tell you my story, right? I no, I acknowledge that. You know, I know that I am literally addicted. Like I'm the one that says, "Okay, I
Mhm.
really got to get some work done. Let me close my laptop," and then I pick up my phone. Like you know, and it
Uh-huh,
happens
uh-huh.
like almost simultaneously. I joined Twitter in 2010, so it's been 10 years. I know that I have over 500,000 tweets.
Wow,
And
wow.
it's a lot. So, and even before, you know, we used to have like Twitter After Dark. We used to have, you know, it used to be a
Uh-huh.
lot simpler 10 years ago. And so now it's changed. And obviously there are other apps. Twitter is where I am all the time, but there's a new audio only app that's in beta called Clubhouse. And so I'm
Really?
on that. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's like you can literally have conversations because you can hear people's voices. And so there's a lot of arguing or discussing or whatever. And, you know, you just have an avatar, but, you know, if you're not typing anything, you're actually, you know, with your voice having conversations. And so that's been interesting. I use Instagram less so. You know, I have an account for visual stuff, and that's where you can probably see, you know, pictures of me with famous people. You know, and I think I'm too old for TikTok. To be honest with you, I'm just not that
Ugh.
demographic. But you know, but I love when the TikToks come over to Twitter because it's like, okay, now I can watch it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm on it all the time. I feel like now with the platform that I have, as an obscene number of followers, I have a
Mhm.
responsibility to educate and inform folks. You know, so right now, obviously, you know, we're right before the election, so we're having these
Mhm.
conversations about digital voter suppression. You know, and
Ooh.
you know, why in the world, you know, Diddy has decided, you know, 2 weeks before the election
No.
that he's going to create an entirely new political party. Come on, Diddy, could you
What?
not release that November 4th? Yes,
I did
yes,
not know that. What is it?
yes.
So, I mean, there's clearly a conspiracy. Yeah, we could go on for days because whatever is happening with these black rappers right now,
Yes. Yeah.
this is
Diddy,
not by
Kanye, 50
chance.
Cent, Ice Cube, Yeah, they all drinking the Kool-Aid, the secret sauce, something. It's
Right.
concerning because they obviously also have huge platforms and are revered, some of them, in the Black community, especially amongst Black men. And
Right.
it's Black men specifically that Trump is trying to siphon off. So when you have Ice Cube saying, you got to work for my vote, yada, yada, yada. And, and maybe we just need to, whatever, and then
Mhm.
he's having conversations with Trump, or Diddy's like, oh no, come to party number 3, not the Democrats, not the Republicans, but this thing that I'm creating from whole cloth. It's a problem because I honestly, and then we can get off of politics completely. I don't believe that there are any undecided voters. I think there are people trying to decide whether they're going to vote at all, right?
Right.
But I think that everybody who has decided that they are going to vote, they know who they're voting for, right?
Mhm.
That's not a question. There's just way too many stark contrasts between what we have, even though they're both white men.
Yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. We could, like you said, we could have a whole another conversation with this because it's crazy. Um, I want to talk about Black Twitter moments. Do you have any favorite Black Twitter moments? And I mean, Black Twitter is like so specific and brings me and so many people so much joy. But do you have any moments that are like, this was the moment when it just felt like we were home? This was the cookout. This
Yes,
was
and
the family
there are
reunion.
so many of those, and thank God for Black Twitter and the community that we have created. I mean, I don't know if you remember, has Justine landed yet? About the white woman who tweeted, on my way to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Yeah, and then jumped on like a 16-hour flight. And when she turned her phone on again on the continent, she realized she had no job because
Right.
because the Black Twitter detectives went to work, and so we stayed up. It's a 16-hour flight from wherever she was going
Right.
to the continent,
Stupid.
and so we stayed up all night using the hashtag Has Justine Landed Yet to ensure that this girl got her due,
Oh my
received her
gosh.
consequences for being racist on the app. There's
Wow.
Mo Jizzle and Father's Day. I don't know how long you've been on Twitter, but there's this dude who apparently had not been taking care of his child.
Oh.
And so Twitter called him out. And so, like, every Father's Day for several years, we would talk about Mo Jizzle. That was his name, like
Yes.
Mojizel or something like that. And we would roast him every year on Father's Day to, to talk about, oh, well, you haven't, yeah, you see in the app, but, you haven't seen your child. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And there are others. I want to plug myself for a minute. We started the No Confederate hashtag
Mm.
when the showrunners and creators of Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss, decided that they were going to create an entirely new program after Game of Thrones that was called Confederate and would
Oh
focus
yes.
on what would it be like if like 3 states in the current United States had re-enslaved their Black citizens.
Mm.
Yeah, and this was around the time of Charlottesville and Heather Heyer. And so we were like,
Yeah.
how is this alternate reality when we're living through, parts of the
Mm-hmm.
Confederacy rearing its ugly head? So me and 4 other Black women assembled like Voltron and created the No Confederate hashtag. And long story short, HBO shelved the project.
Wow. Yeah, we said we're not having it. We're not having it.
Exactly. Oh, I love the Price is Right trombones. Okay,
Yes, yes, yes. I was excited to use it. So, um,
I appreciate it.
but and also I hear when has Justine landed yet? Is that was it? I
Mhm.
hear the claps in that. Has Justine landed yet? Like I hear
Right.
it.
Right.
It's so
Like I just
serious.
looking around the corner. Has Justine landed yet? Is she here? Has she gone through customs? Like, has she turned her phone on? Like, how many text messages and phone calls has she gotten? Well, or she's been in airplane mode. Yeah,
Wow.
that was a real one. That was a lot of fun.
That's yes. Um, so what is like in terms of your various journeys in life? Because you've moved, you've had a career that seems to be consistent in terms of really um, caring about the visibility and representation of Black folks. But what has the journey been like, and what are some moments that have felt really impactful, or a moment of transition for you within this journey?
So now this is part of my 180. So I don't
Hmm.
know
Oh,
how
go
far you
ahead.
want to. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Just to give folks a little bit of background, I wasn't always whatever it is you want to call me now. I don't call myself an activist. I call myself an advocate for
mm,
representation in the entertainment industry. To me, activists are the people who are on the ground making
yeah,
change. Out there in the streets, talking about policy and liberation for Black folks. Right. That's
hmm,
just my personal definition. So I definitely don't put myself in the category with those heroes and sheroes. But
hmm,
I was a practicing attorney for about 15, 16, 17 years, and I was practicing campaign finance law. So
wow,
I had no nexus to the entertainment industry at all. And then Oscar So White happened, and this is my 180 moment. And so everything changed. And so I had to learn everything, because all I was an avid moviegoer, and a massive consumer of entertainment. But I
hmm,
didn't have any network. I didn't have any connections. I had to figure out how white the Oscars were after I created that hashtag. And so, turns out Snow White, like, liquid paper white, copy paper white, what I'm saying? Yeti in an avalanche white, that kind of, it was white. Birkenstocks in the wintertime white. Yes, I don't wash my legs in the shower white, white. You understand?
I can't. I
You
don't have
understand?
enough point. I this description of weight. Oh my gosh! I wish I had a sound that could be a Becky or something. I don't know.
I don't know what
Like,
that would be.
I mean, where's your manager? I need to see your manager. I don't know, something
There
like
you go.
that.
There it is. There
You
it is.
know,
So
I need to speak to your manager.
I love that. I think that's perfect. That's a Becky. That's a Karen. That's a whatever. So anyway, since Oscar So White, so since 2015, my life has completely changed, and I'm happy to get into this more with you. If you
Hmm.
want to in a bit.
Yeah.
But just to answer your question, since then, we've seen some incremental change, right?
Hmm.
The Oscars, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, the folks who run the Oscars, said, okay, we're going to double the number of people of color and double the number of women within our membership ranks by this year, by 2020, and they
Right.
did that. But the numbers overall, because the Oscars were so overwhelmingly white and male, older white and male, like the
Mm.
average Oscar member is like a 60-year-old white man. So even after they doubled the number of people of color, they doubled the number of women, it was still like 89% white,
Wow.
and so it wasn't really a change. Like they like to splash it around and say, oh, look what we did. And then even this year, the Academy said that they were going to change the parameters for the Best Picture category,
Right.
so
Hmm.
that you would have to be more thoughtful about diversity and inclusion if you wanted to be up for that award. Now, you can drive a Mack truck through the loopholes of that
Oh wow.
particular initiative, but and again, we can get into it if you want to. But again, that's so it felt like I wrote a piece for the Hollywood Reporter about that particular initiative, and I said,
Hmm.
it's like window dressing on a condemned house, so it
Wow.
looks good,
Yes. Hmm.
but it's actually not making any change for the folks who should get changed. So anyway, back to the question about milestones. I guess those things I guess we can call milestones because it's the first time that the Academy has actually made any significant change in its
Hmm.
92-year history, but it's clearly not enough. But for me personally, um, I met Barry Jenkins, the
Hmm.
director of Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk and Underground, which is coming soon.
Yes. Excited.
And so I saw him and I waved to him and he waved me over, and he introduced me to his paramour, and he said, "This woman changed my life."
Mm.
Now that's kind of deep, and I had to sit there. I'm like, the Barry Jenkins said something like that,
Wow.
so that was a
And he
moment
said it
for
to
me.
who? Who was it
He
that he
said
said?
it to his partner,
Okay.
right, and so, and so
Wow.
he's introduced me to his love as
Yeah.
someone who has impacted him. When I met Julie Dash, of Daughters of the Dust fame,
Hmm.
she was not in there's a long story behind it, but there, for many reasons, Black folks have not become Academy members because of the rules of how you get in. Part of it is either you have to be nominated for an Oscar or win an Oscar, or you have to be sponsored. Like you have to have 2 people or 3 people within the Academy say yes, they should be a member. Well, if it's nothing but old white men, you know who they're going to sponsor and who they're not going to sponsor. So although Julie Dash did the seminal work of Daughters in the Dust, she was not an Academy member. Once the Academy said we're going to bring in more people of color, more people and more women, they rightfully and much overdue recognized her, and she became a member of the Academy. After that happened, I met her at Sundance, and she said, "Oh, so you're the woman who is responsible for me being an Academy member." And so it's little things like that. You know, it's 30 seconds throughout the course of an entire year. But those are the things that stay with me, that let me know that, you know, I'm doing the right thing. I just need to keep going, and I need to do more.
Message. Keep going. Keep going.
And do more.
And do more. And you talked about making way for others, which, you know, for you, you were being yourself. You were absolutely leaning into what you believed. Who are people that have made room for you in your life, and that you feel like have really made that space for you to be your most your bold self, yourself?
Oh man, so many people who are just, you know, welcomed in this middle-aged woman who had no background in, you know, in the same industry that they've been toiling away at for decades, you know, and just welcomed me with open arms. You know, Tamron Hall, you know, the first time I met her, you know, she just came up and gave me a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. And, you know, we've gone out to lunch, and, you know, every now and again, she'll text me a picture of Moses, her son. And, you know, it's like, that's Tamron Hall. You know? Oh my God, how am I, you know? And so, yeah, I can fangirl out, you know, in that way. You know, the fact that Ava DuVernay recognizes me by face, you know, and I don't live in LA, I'm not in Hollywood, you know, that's not me. And yet, you know, when she sees me, when we're at an event together or something, you know, she'll wave, "Hey sis, how you doing?" Whatever, and we'll hug, and, you know, and she's just lovely. You know, and of course, the first 2 people that I mentioned are Black women, because that's how we do. You know, we welcome each other into the fold, and we lift as we climb. You know, Datavio Samuels from now Revolt TV, you know, formerly Interactive One. You know, there's been so many people who have seen something in me before I saw it in myself. You know, and this goes back to the 180, but, you know, here I am at that time when I created Oscar So White. I was a 44-year-old woman with 2 kids at home, and a practicing attorney, right? None of that says entertainment advocate who travels around the world, and you may just see her in Cannes, France, you know, or you may just see her in Toronto at the film festival. None of that says that, right? And so having folks just be open and listening as they climb, and being thoughtful. You know, I went to the Oscars one time, that was 2019, and the sisters that reached out to me and were like, "Hey, make sure you got some granola bars, right? and take a, you know, and take a comfy pair of shoes to change into, because those 5-inch stilettos you walk in the carpet with will not last." You know, we're fantastic. You know, and that was Gabrielle Union, and that was Tarana Burke, and, you know, all these amazing people. So, you know, it's been amazing to me how much I've been welcomed into the outer circle. I'm definitely not in anybody's inner circle, but I am very happy where I am on the outer circle, right? You know, but having the opportunity to, you know, sometimes say, "Oh, okay, you know, I'm working on this project, you know, like the She Will Rise campaign. You know, we would love to get some actual famous people and celebrities to help us, you know, have this conversation about the first Black woman Supreme Court justice. Who do I know?" And then I go through my Rolodex, you know, my phone, Rolodex, that shows how old I am, you know, but I go through my phone, and it's like, oh, well, hell, you know, I have those numbers, you know, and it always, it's surprising to me too. You know, and I never, ever take that for granted. You know, and I you know, I'm just very thankful for the openness that people have shown through the years.
With that in mind, I'm curious because you said, you know, I have this person's number on my phone. How do you find that you have to muster up the courage to approach people at this point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's
Like
a good
how
question.
how do you find
And
that? Yeah.
especially for me, you know, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. You know, like, what are you doing here? This isn't you. You know, you're not an actor, you're not a producer. That, you know, that's not who you are. You're just a woman with a hashtag. Like, what is going on right now? So it depends on what it is. You know, there are times when I'm like, okay, let's really decide, you know, this may be your one, you know, your one favor or your one ask or whatever. Let's really decide if this is worth it. And if you need to reach out personally or if you need to go through official channels so that it doesn't count as your personal favor. You know what I mean? And so there's always that calculus going on as well. Or, you know, I'll reach out and say, hey, we're doing this thing. If you're interested, would love to contact you formally. So at least that way, you know, because some of these folks have managers and agents and publicists. And so just to get to them, you know, you've got to go through 47 different layers. And so if I can just tee it up and say, hey, something is coming, could you ask your people to look out for it? Sometimes that's enough to get us in the door so that we at least can move through those layers quickly. But yeah, sometimes it is hard. I remember, this was several years ago now. I was helping the Capital City Black Film Festival in Austin, Texas. And I was their ambassador or some like title that didn't really mean anything. You know, but, you know, and they were looking for like a big film to showcase. And so I reached out to Jesse Williams via DM on Twitter. And I don't even think that we had actually met at that point. Maybe we had once. You know, and I just said, hey, you know, would love to get, you know, and I can't remember what the film was. I think it was something that he had produced, or maybe, you know, it was like a documentary and he had worked on. I can't remember. And I said, you know, we would love to showcase your film. You know, just let me know what hoops I need to jump through to get that to happen. And, you know, and it took like 10 days to hear back from him. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind, you know. But then he responded via DM. And he's like, yeah, sure. You know, just talk to this person, tell them I said it's okay. And we were able to show the film. You know, and I find, you know, in the limited interactions that I have, that almost everybody is just down to earth. They remember the struggle, you know, if they're not already, you know, still in it. You know, and they're happy to do something, you know, for someone else, you know, and are very giving and generous with their time or, you know, whatever. I mean, I think about, especially right now, you know, with all this going on with the summer of racial reckoning, as some folks are calling it, and, you know, and everything that's happening with respect to voting and getting people out, there are so many A-list celebrities and public figures who are donating their time, you know, to do shows or, you know, IG lives or whatever the case may be, just because they understand that this is something important.
I want to go back to if this is your 180, and if it's not, then, you know, you tell me what it is. But the moment before you decided to do that hashtag Oscar so white, because like you said you were 44 years old, a lawyer, 2 kids. What was your mindset before you created the hashtag, which turned into a movement? Yeah, what was your mindset? Where were you? And then what did you discover after you put it out there?
Okay, so my 180 was not the hashtag itself. Because, you know, and I would love to tell the really sexy story, you know, oh, I was sitting around the conference table with my people and we were ideating and strategizing and all those big fancy words that white folks use for things, you know, about, you know, how we can impact the entertainment industry and using all my corporate speak. No, sir. What happened was the January 2015, I was still a practicing lawyer. One of the presenters for, you know, and I was a huge Oscar fan, so I watched the nominations every year on, you know, one of the morning shows. That particular year, January 2015, Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor in the Avengers series, was one of the presenters. I said, Thor is going to be in a 3-piece suit, and I need him on the biggest TV in our house in HD. So this is me putting on my skirt in the family room, getting ready for my lawyer job, watching Thor on our big screen TV, relatively big screen TV.
I just had to do that.
So, and then as I was listening to the nominations, category after category, best actor, best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, there were no people of color. So I picked up my phone, which is typically embedded in my forearm. We talked about my addiction to Twitter. I jumped on Twitter and I said, Oscar's so white, they asked to touch my hair. And that was it. I was being snarky. I was being petty. And then I was late from work. And so I went on to work. That was it. One tweet. And I checked in on Twitter around lunchtime. And based on that one tweet, the hashtag was trending around the world. And then I had to decide, and it was snarky, just as I was snarky. Oscar so white, they have a perfect credit score. Oscar so white, they wear Birkenstocks in the wintertime. This was before the non-leg washing thing, but Oscar so white, they love their tuna casserole. You understand? So, and this went on for a long time. Exactly. And this went on for a really long time. It wasn't until a couple of days later that the conversation switched into, well, how white are the Oscars? Is this an actual thing? And so that came and sort of went. January 2016, the next year, it happened again. No people of color nominated for any of the acting categories. So that's when, a year later, when the media really picked up on it, like, maybe we need to figure out what this lady is talking about, because one time is a fluke, 2 times is a pattern, and now we have 2 in a row, right? And so it wasn't until a year later that Oscar So White really took off. And 2016, I think, was also the year that Jada Pinkett Smith was sort of up in arms because Will wasn't nominated for concussion. What was that one called? Something.
It was 7. No, I don't know.
No, it wasn't 7. It was the other one.
Concussion.
Yeah, it was the one where he something, whatever. You know which one I mean.
Yes,
right?
I do know.
But then I was like, okay, so she was, maybe we need to boycott. We need to make our own. And I have issues on that, but we don't move forward because this is not a red table that I'm sitting at. Because I was like, okay, sis. Yeah, I was like, okay, sis, I hear you. And yet you walked the Golden Globe carpet when he was nominated. So clearly this isn't an issue about representation, right? This is an issue about that particular award show, which is cool, but let's call it what it is, right? So anyway, it was 2016 when it really took off, in part because, it got the bump from her. And there were actually some folks who thought that she had created the hashtag or whatever. So, we need to clean that up a little bit as well. And so that is somewhere in there, my 180 moment happened. Like, you know what, and I had created viral hashtags before. But this one felt like it had legs, like there was going to be some longevity. And so it was then, and here's where the 180 moment comes in, that I said, okay, I can't keep doing my day job, which I actually hated. Like, it was financially stable and it wasn't very stressful and it was paying the mortgage every month, but it was sucking the life out of my soul. And so I think the universe realized that I needed something, else. And so I had been doing some things on the side, just to speak to my creativity a little bit. But it was in 2016, and I was like, okay, I can't keep doing my day job and doing all of this stuff that I'm doing with respect to diversity and inclusion, with the Oscars specifically, but it was also broadening to all of entertainment. Because if you think the movies are bad, let's talk about theater, like Broadway shows. We can also talk about TV as well, right? There are problems all across the board. And Oscar So White was not a binary Black versus white thing. It was about all marginalized communities. So, you think Black folks got it bad, let's talk about Latinx folks. Let's talk about disabled folks. Let's talk about the LGBT plus community, right? So all of those conversations were happening. And people were asking me to come speak and talk and, and help them and, work with their corporations to get more Black folks on the wall, as they say, from Sal's Pizza, and I just couldn't do both. And so I took a leap of faith and said, okay, I'm going to leave this really cushy job, the 6-figure job that's paying the bills with 2 kids at home, both of whom want to go to college, and do this thing, which didn't really have a name, and strike out into this industry now at 45 years old with absolutely no experience, and just figure out what this looks like. But I knew that it was bringing me joy. And it was filling me in a way that nothing professionally had ever done before. And so that's how I knew it was right. And so when I talk to, I'm very privileged to speak at colleges and universities all over the country. And so that's one of the things that I try to leave with students, like figure out what it is that you want to do now. Don't do like April did, wait till, you're halfway through your life before you find that thing. Figure out what it is that you would do for free. Don't ever do it for free. But that thing that, that you don't mind being up until 2 a.m, or you don't mind working on weekends to do because you love it, because it fills you with passion, because it is your thing. It is not just your avocation, but it can be your vocation, and go after that. Not the thing that your parents think you should do, not the thing that society thinks you should do, but the thing that fills your soul, because the money will come, because you will work like hell to make it happen, because it brings you joy.
Message.
That's you said it. I mean, yes, absolutely. And I know one of my favorite quotes is "Follow your bliss," because, like you said, it brought you joy, it brought you fulfillment, and taking that leap of faith wasn't as scary, I assume, knowing that it would, you had joy, you had fulfillment in doing it. So wow, that's amazing.
And and I also had a safety net, right? I had a husband who had a stable job, and so if I wasn't bringing in as much as I used to as a lawyer, we could sort of figure out how to balance it out, so I had that support system, and that's important too. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage or a partner, but, just some people who, when you're having those imposter syndrome moments, when you're having those, what in the hell did I do? Who do you know that is hiring moments, because we all go through those. I think that's helpful. And it was helpful knowing that I could always go back and do the lawyer thing or something else if I needed to, because I had those skills. It's just not what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So what would you like to see in the future in terms of the industry? Well, the industry, but also the country, but also the world, because, your initiatives are all more specific than only the industry. You know what I mean? It's a global initiatives around visibility and representation.
Yeah, we need to normalize inclusion, and both of those words are sort of overused. But it shouldn't be that we have to have conversations about how do we make this better. It just should be already ingrained in people's thought processes, and so that's where we need to get. If we're still talking about the first of anything in 2020, we're not doing it right. And that's the first queer whatever, the first disabled whatever, the first Black, the first Latinx whatever. And we're still hitting up against those ceilings. Look at Kamala Harris. The first Black woman, the first South Asian, the first woman, to be where she is right now. We need to normalize inclusion. We need the gatekeepers, right? So people of color, people from traditionally underrepresented communities, we know what we need. So having those conversations is like preaching to the choir. I'm gonna tell Black people that we need more Black people, and they all like, yeah, we know, got it. This is a quick conversation. You don't need to say, and explain that. It's the gatekeepers. It's the people in charge. It's the CEOs. It's the C-suite who need to be more thoughtful about not only who they are, they need to be more thoughtful, not only about who they are recruiting, but who they are retaining, right? So we talk about having a seat at the table. Well, if all you're doing at the table is taking notes for somebody else, that doesn't help, right? You need to have agency. You need to be on par. So when someone says, I'd love to hear what Eric has to say, then that makes a difference, because you now have power in that room. That's what we need. And we need to create more of our own rooms. But,
real fast, just to double check, because I heard the alarm go off. I just want to make sure you're still recording.
Excellent question. Hold, please.
Yeah.
Oh, good tip. Okay. So let me start again.
Okay, no problem. And you can
go
ahead.
No, I got it. So what we need is we need to normalize inclusion, and it is the gatekeepers who are responsible for making that happen, not just with respect to recruitment, but also retention, right?
Yeah,
And so if
yes.
you're bringing people in the room and having a seat at the table, it doesn't matter if you're only there to take notes. You should have agency. You should be on par with everybody else in that room so that people know that your ideas, your suggestions are just as valid as anybody else. You know, and again, we talk about imposter syndrome, but anytime you get invited into a room, know that they wanted you there, you know,
Yes.
as opposed to anybody else, right? They said, I want Eric in the room. And
Yeah.
so you should walk in boldly with your full authentic self, because that's who they saw when they requested you specifically, right? And so, I
Yes.
mean, white folks are at the head of everything, you know, especially in this country, but, you know, in most places around the world, other than the continent, thank God, you know. And so until they die off or have a moment of enlightenment, it's going to be really tough, because you cannot have like middle managers say, oh yeah, we're all about diversity and inclusion around here. We're gonna do this. Like, you're not in charge of anything.
Right. You're
No,
not charging me. Right.
no, talk to me when the CEO, when the CFO, the one who actually has the money, when the COO actually buy into this plan to normalize inclusion and be intentional about it, because that's when it trickles down to the entire organization. And that's not just entertainment, that's tech, that's education, that's every single industry.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. So like, it's exciting to be able to have these conversations, but also to know that people are passionately ensuring that these conversations are happening at the levels of the gatekeepers, and trying to make sure that we can get to the gatekeepers and have these conversations. And the fact that social media, Twitter, all of it is engaging dynamically with the challenge to really shift representation in actual words to shift representation on screen and off screen and globally.
Yeah, I mean, social media is levels the playing field in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I mean, you think about some of the amazing things that have happened because of social media. You know, somebody sees an amazing video of a couple of African kids, you know, making movies using, you know, torn bed sheets and, you know, whatever they can find in their yard. And so then J.J. Abrams ships them thousands of dollars of new video equipment. Like, here, brothers, go really do the thing, because clearly you're talented, right? I mean, you know, scripts have been signed. You know, if you remember, you know, I think, what was it, Rihanna and Lupita? You know, somebody had a meme like on Tumblr, and then it came to Twitter, and they were like, oh yeah, this is kind of interesting. Why won't we do that? You know, the movie Zola. You know, that started as a Twitter thread, right? And now, you know, it showed at Sundance this year. Like, and you know, and that's just the entertainment industry. But you know, and we also have the opportunity to hold folks accountable. So, you know, the driving while black and all the rest of the severed, people just showing their entire ass, excuse my language, on Twitter or elsewhere, and then they get dragged, you know, and then the black Twitter detectives come out of the woodwork, and they're like, okay, well, here is his employer, you know, and you know, and people have to face consequences, you know, not necessarily punishment, but consequences for their actions. And you know, and where else can you reach out directly to an A-list actor or celebrity, you know, or what have you, or the CEO of a corporation, and actually get a response?
As a last question, and I'm going to go into my quote to end things. Who are some of your heroes and sheroes? Whether it doesn't have to be in the industry. I'm just curious, who are some of your heroes and sheroes?
My mom, first and foremost. Who is my, you know, and I'm very thankful that both of my parents are still alive and healthy. You know, but she has always been my biggest cheerleader and fan. And even now, you know, I'm 50 years old. I've given her 2 grandchildren, but even now, she treats me like her little girl. And sometimes you just really need that. You know, and my mom went to law school. I just found out, you know how old people, sorry, Mom, old people say, you know, oh yeah, by the way, there was that one time that such and such. Like, she told me this year that she audited one of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's law school classes, like a gazillion years ago. Yeah, she just brought this out like, oh, and I need to go get some catfish from the market. Like, you know, it was one of those,
right.
You know what I mean? It was
Real
one of those conversations. It's like, you dated who, Mom? Oh, okay, so that was before or after his second Super Bowl, like
Right.
those kind of conversations.
Oh my
But
gosh.
she went to law school, but right before she was going to start practicing law, which is what she wanted to do, she found out she was pregnant with me. And so instead of taking on that law job, that legal job that she knew was going to keep her out of the house with late hours or what have you, she worked as a secretary sometimes. She worked far below her education so that, we could have a stable home life, and so she could be home every evening with me. And so that's in part why I became a lawyer, because I wanted to fulfill that dream for her. So absolutely one of my heroes. Malcolm X, just plain and simple. For so many reasons, especially the way that he evolved as a human being.
Yes.
Not
enough people talk about that, but yes.
Yeah, he was a criminal. He was, a formerly incarcerated person. He was, out in them streets, and then, he found the Nation of Islam, and even after that, like, I don't stop there. Like, let's talk about the pilgrimage and his Hajj, and then he came back. And to me, if you want to get into conspiracy theories, many of our Black icons and activists, especially in the 60s, were killed or assassinated or murdered when they started reaching out to the white community. So you can talk about, you can talk about COINTELPRO or FBI, CIA, or whoever you want to say did it or didn't do it or had somebody else do it, whatever. But, when Martin Luther King was talking about the Poor People's Campaign, when Fred Hampton was reaching out to, good old boys and rednecks, when Malcolm said, he switched his thing around and said, no, it's not just about Black folks. I'm taking this to the United Nations. All of them were cut down in their prime at that point. And so Malcolm, for me, his evolution as a person, his views on Black liberation resonate more with me than some of the other folks of that time period. So absolutely a hero. And then lastly, Audre Lorde, just because she just opened my mind so much about, like, I don't consider myself a feminist because feminism has always meant white women. And so I believe in the liberation and the equality of women, absolutely, across the board, pro-choice, all of that. But the word feminist leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and so I don't use that. But just her teaching me through her, through her books and her writings about who we are and who we can be, especially as women, has been incredibly instructive.
April, I could talk to you for a long time, and I hope I do in the future. I hope we can be friends.
I would like that.
Yes. And we're gonna make the Omars happen. But so I'm gonna wrap up with a quote, and we'll just talk briefly about the quote. Here is the quote. I believe there's a calling for all of us. I know that every human being has value and purpose. The real work of our lives is to become aware and awakened to answer the call. And that is a quote from Oprah Winfrey.
Yes, it is true. Yes. And I believe that too. And so that's what I talk about with students, finding your passion, right? And being aware, self-aware enough to hear it, right? Because we talk about intuition and the voices in our head, and sometimes we tamp those down. But for me, I believe in manifestation. I believe, I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person, and so I believe in the universe moving in your favor. But sometimes we need to actually acknowledge that that's happening and let it happen. I think we fight, because of patriarchy and misogyny and all other things. We're supposed to be in this box and we're supposed to be this way. I graduated high school in 1987. And if you wanted to be a professional, quote unquote, during that time, that meant you were, as a Black person, that meant you were a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. Like, those were the three things. And so I went to law school, right? Because there wasn't, you can't be what you can't see. And in 1987, there were a lot less role models in various fields, and obviously this was before the internet. So, being a digital media consultant or whatever wasn't a thing because there was no digital anything, and so that's why I'm so excited for, Gen Z and millennials who get to do things that I never could have imagined. You know, and for me, it was, okay, well, you got that one job, that's your one job, you got a good job, and you're gonna stay in that job for 30 years, you know, and then, you know, hopefully retire with a pension. And now, you know, young folks are like, oh, 18 months, you know, I did my stint here, I don't really
Next.
like it, I'm moving on, with
Yes.
no, you know, no consequences for that. And that's amazing. So I think we just need to be open to when that calling happens and figure out how we are going to move. Like, you know, not everybody has the privilege I did to be able to just walk away with a six-figure job and still be okay. But how do we continue to move in our purpose? You know, so yeah, you can
Yes.
answer that call, but sometimes you may need to put it on hold for a little bit, you know, until you get to that place where you need to be, until you can have that full conversation with the calling that you've received.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, April. I'm applause and ooh and